Hi, welcome to the Marin County G Channel. I'm Jerry Kay. My guest is the CEO of Granicus, Tom Spengler. Tom, thanks very much for being with us.
My pleasure, Jerry.
Thank you. Now, Granicus has been around for about 9 years. People in Marin County, people around the country have probably experienced Granicus but may not actually know that. So Tom, tell me what the vision is for Granicus.
The mission for Granicus is to change the way citizens interact with government. And so most of our work so far has been through creating transparency and opening up government so people can start out by knowing what's going on and making it more convenient for them to get that information. We work with about 400 government agencies from cities, counties, school districts, water districts, clean air districts, state agencies like the California Public Utilities Commission, and help them put archived, indexed, searchable video of their public meetings online. Also linked in with all the supporting documentation. So any citizen can basically get the comprehensive public record through a linked minutes document that's created through our system. All of our work through our software is integrated into the client's website. So a lot of times you wouldn't know that Granicus really exists, but you would go to Marin County's website, you click on Board of Supervisors meetings, and you would have two options to get into the video. One would be live. So if a meeting was happening now, you could click and you could watch live. And the nice thing about this, especially in Marin, is that they didn't have those meetings out on the cable channel when they started. So you either had to go to the meeting or not see what was happening live. So now you can watch live, whether you're in Europe or whether you're in Marin or San Francisco or the East Bay, wherever you're at, you can watch. Also, all of those meetings that are shown live would be listed and archived. So you would be able to look at by the year. So if I want to look at 2005 or 2006 or 2007 or the current meetings in 2008, and then I could choose the meetings by date. I could pull up the meeting, I could look at the agendas or the minutes for those documents as well. I can also search on keyword, which is really nice. What we found is that most citizens really don't know the legislative process that well. They don't know when the item they're interested in was discussed. If it was discussed 2 or 3 times over the last couple months, they can search on that topic and find every time the board discussed it and then watch those meetings.
And in terms of the future, where do you see the future going for Granicus?
Well, I mean, for us, we're always trying to increase convenience. Right now, like I mentioned, everything is about transparency, so we'd like to see more meetings online. A lot of our agencies, like the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, those meetings are online. Some of their other meetings are online, but in San Francisco right now, they've actually passed, the Board of Supervisors has passed some legislation saying all of their public meetings need to be webcast. And so there's hundreds of meetings in a lot of these cities and counties that are important public meetings that aren't online, so we'd like to help them get those online. We would like to increase or create some ability for them to provide better feedback. You know, right now it's how do we look into what's going on with government, and the next step I think is how do we interact with government a little bit more, and how do we post a comments, or how do we rate a decision, or how do we create some sort of interactivity so you can have a productive relationship between citizens and your government agencies, instead of one where, you know, the government's kind of trying to close the door because they're not getting productive discussions from some of the citizens who do have the time to participate now.
Tom, tell me about how you measure the impact of Granicus. And I'm thinking that if you go to a typical meeting somewhere in the country, maybe there's 6 people who show up, maybe a dozen. Obviously, when there are more controversial issues, you'll see more, but they're a relatively small number. But then I look at the numbers that we're getting in Marin County, and it's significantly larger than that. How do you evaluate the impact of Granicus?
Yeah, well, you know, our business, like you mentioned, is almost 9 years old. It's 8.5 years old. And when we first started, it was just about transparency. And we changed that by specializing in government and learning what their processes were. So now we can measure an impact really in 2 areas. One is how much efficiency do we bring to them in their operational process. So the indexing of our video is done by automating the way the meetings are run and the way that the minutes are done for the meeting through our Minutes Maker product. So all the indexing in the video is part of their meeting process now. And so we want to see a positive ROI, and we do see a positive ROI with our clients in terms of them saving time and money. And then they create this transparency as well, almost as a byproduct or a side product of what they're doing in their automation. And we certainly can measure the cost for that, but that's not the only way to measure the success there. You know, there was, in the past, people would come and ask for duplications of tapes, and we could go and we could sit down with the city or county and say, how many tapes copies do you make, and how much does that cost, and how much staff time does that take, and there was some time savings there. But as you increase convenience, you really increase the number of people who are interested and can participate in at least viewing what's going on with government. And so, we see hundreds, if not thousands, of requests per meeting or per month for a client on their meetings. And we think that's a big part of the impact. We get almost 2 million requests a month for all of our 400 clients now, where people are coming and they're viewing that content. So
it's also interesting historically that people can go back, and some of the issues, maybe taxes, maybe moderate income housing, it may be the environment.
Yeah.
People can go back and have some historical perspective on what's going on.
Yeah. Some of our clients have meetings online, like the City of Sacramento, from 2001. So I can go from 2001 until today, and I can see their city council meetings. They're all indexed, they're all searchable. And it's actually very interesting to see when an issue was addressed 3 or 4 times over a couple year period, and be able to watch each discussion back to back to back, and really understand the context that something's being discussed in, and the history that it's being discussed, and sometimes see where people are going back and forth on the issue, and it's hard to really make a solid decision on that.
I noticed there are some areas of the country which are mandated. He mentioned San Francisco making all public meetings webcast. The state of New York has done that as well.
Yeah.
This obviously, or at least appears to be, a growing trend, making meetings accessible via the web.
Well, one of the beautiful things about our business is that it's not a political issue on either side of the fence. It's not like the Democrats are for open government and the Republicans are against it, or back and forth. Really, both parties and almost all of your elected officials say, at least publicly, will always say transparency is important. It's something that we need to do, and it's nice to see them finally acting on that. When we first started, and I would travel the country as kind of the lone salesperson, and some of our early salespeople that were with us, we would go in and we'd go to a government agency and say, hey, look, this is what we can do. We can put your meetings on the web. And they would go like, oh God, do we want to do that? We've never seen this before. How do we react to this? Opportunity, threat. There's a lot of people who were concerned that if we televise our meetings, or if we put our meetings on the web, then there's going to be a lot of grandstanding, and our meetings are going to take a long time. And we historically haven't seen a change in the duration of a meeting based on adding webcasting to the service. So.
As the CEO of Granicus and also one of its founders, what's meant the most to you as you look at this the industry and Granicus as a company? What's meant the most to you?
Yeah, well, I think it means a lot to be working in a business where you're doing good. Emery and I had always talked about when we started the company, we never did it to make a lot of money. We wanted to work for ourselves, and we wanted to be able to do something that we felt good about at the end of the day. So I feel good about the business we're in. But the thing that I feel best about is probably the people, the great people that work at Granicus that I get to work with every day, and seeing them grow and seeing them thrive, and creating an environment where people can be inspired and have an opportunity to do some work that they might not get an opportunity to do somewhere else. And we really had to bootstrap it through some very difficult times. So I think when you have a team that works well together and goes for a common goal, and climbs a tall mountain and makes it to the top, there's just a great feeling for that. And we're not at the top of the mountain yet, but we've been pretty successful. And then on the other side of the people is our clients. One of the beautiful things about working with government is you have really long-term relationships with your clients, and we've got, I would say, very dear friends in a lot of our clients. And they've accomplished a lot too. We have a lot of clients who've been recognized with awards for using our technology and changing the way their citizens interact with government and creating transparency. And I love seeing that. I love seeing someone who bought into what we were pitching them in the early days, and has made it very successful in their communities. And the emails that come in from citizens who say, I love this service. This is what government should be doing. You've created a great amount of transparency and openness, and just a good feeling in our community that, hey, the government is open. All of their meetings are open. I can see them anytime. They're on the web. Anybody can see them. It builds trust, I think, in the communities, and I think that's really important.
Something just on a philosophical level that interests me. The media tends to be event-oriented.
Yeah.
So they report the vote.
Yeah.
Government and life is process-oriented.
Yeah.
And what you've done with Granicus is open up. You talk about transparency and open government, but you've also enabled the public to see the process of their own government, and then get involved as they wish and as time permits. I think the the impact is profound. I really do.
Yeah, you know, it's something that I learned when I was in college, I think, was that a lot of what's in the paper, you know, wasn't that accurate. I was the chair of the board for the student government, and that kind of helped me understand public meetings a little bit and kind of understand that there might be an opportunity here, even though I would say luck was probably the biggest factor in us choosing government as our focus, because we tried it and we got a good reaction. But you know, it's not to knock the media, but there's a lot of inaccuracies there, and I think government is an important enough thing that you don't want to just have to go with what's written in the paper. Someone else interpreted it, someone else told you what's important. I think through the people now, the technology is available that I can go find what's important to me, not just what was reported on, and I can go see exactly what was said, not just how someone interpreted it. And I think that's very powerful. And certainly seeing the process, I think creates more accountability and more education for citizens that, okay, this is how it works. If I want to get involved, I know how to get involved. It's not this big black box that I can just complain about, or I can, you know, just read what was in the paper that someone else is complaining about and be angry about.
Tom Spengler, thanks very much for being with us on the Marin County G Channel.
Great, thank you.